Excited for our guys. For me as a head coach, probably one of the more enjoyable days of the year that doesn't involve a game, right? Just to know where you met these guys. Some of these guys have been in, since I got here. Some of these guys have been in here just a year, and whatever the case, to see them have this day, to have this opportunity. Going back to my college career, right? I remember pro day and made an impression on the Seahawks to give me an opportunity to last for 6 days, but it was a good week. So I always just think that perspective of the opportunity that's here today. And we literally set up a day. I think if you talk to some of these scouts and some of these coaches that are here, we try to do the best in the country at this day. And it's kind of our day that we can give back to our players to make sure it's as good as they possibly can. So excited for all these guys, and a couple more things ahead of them. Open up for questions.
Seems like Tip and Casey are making the most of this process. Just what did you see the development of those two, especially the last year?
Yeah, unique story. So Tip, when we got here, was a 6'5", 230-pound walk-on tight end from South Dakota. And I remember the meeting I had with him, I was just blown away with kind of like, what kind of person he was, but that frame, right? Like, you kind of drooled. I remember Tank talking about him. And if I remember right, he went from like 230 to like 245, like in a heartbeat. And I remember that first spring game, he kind of went out to the spring game, and there was like literally a play where he didn't move. The ball was snapped and he didn't move, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And he's like, Coach, I've never been in that environment. I'm like, there's 8,000 people, but to think about that moment to where he is today, and I've probably had more contact from teams around the league since the combine than any player in my coaching career. Because I think from a year ago to where we are today, going into this past year, I really thought he'd be back for one more year. I knew there was going to be a conversation, but I thought, hey, he's probably not going to be along far enough. But about midway through the year, I was like, hey, we better maximize this guy while we got him, because I think it's going to be his last rodeo. And he's done it. Casey Washington, I always make reference, when I was the head coach of Wisconsin, Ted Thompson, who's no longer with us, always used to ask me, like, who's the guy that you know what you know and we don't, that you would, say might make a difference. And Casey was one of those guys. I told the group, I go, hey, if he had another year with us, if he had been with us one more year, I think this thing would be a different game, right? And I think he's doing a great job of playing himself into a very draftable status.
How important is this just for the program?
Kendrick Green came up to me and he's like, Coach, every time I come back, I'm more impressed with everything that goes on here, right? Like, he was a guy that I tried to recruit to stay one more year because I think we could have changed his life. Even though he drafted high, I think he could have been even higher. But to hear a former player say those things and where it's at, like, get excited. Obviously, everybody gets caught up in the moment, but I do know from where we came to where we are today, I think our first year there might have been 14 or 16 teams here, and had some good players, but now we have every team represented, several position coaches, just the amount of growth that we've had. Now for me, it also upsets me, right? Because I know we lost a lot of really good players that this is the last time they'll probably be on our turf, right? And that moment is great for them, but it's also a great indicator of what we got to do.
Last year, you went to Kansas City, obviously. What's the plan this year? Is that still in the air?
Well, I'm not going to Kansas City because of the draft.
No, don't do that.
Right? Yeah, kind of a work in progress.
Right.
Johnny, Cooter, whatever the status ends up being, I think he'll be the first guy off the board for us, right? So a little bit plays off where he's at. But the one thing I realized, and I give Pat Pearson a lot of credit for this, like he had kind of come to me last year before the draft, 3 or 4 months out, and said, hey, I think we better start planning around what we want to do on draft weekend. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'd had a bunch of first rounders in my life, but I never thought about going to where they are, right? And it opened my eyes in Kansas City, to go through that moment with Spoon is something that I'll never forget. I know it's a memorable moment for him, but for me as a head coach, just to see that environment, and then to go and get to be at draft day when Chase's number was called, right? And Sydney's number was called first, and we sent some guys down to where some of the other guys were at, Kirby the year before, and then Quan last year, right? So it's a really cool thing, because I think it also shows more than ever what our program can be and what they can produce. I think Isaiah Adams, I think about my first year, I remember seeing him on film. I kind of liked him, but I'm like, hey, I don't know. And then we went during our bye week, Bart and I flew to Garden City and had a chance to see him physically and hear the coaches talk about him, and saw some individual drill tape that we really, really liked, offered him a scholarship, and obviously ended up getting him. But then after 2 weeks of spring ball, I'm like, okay, there's something special here, right? And to know we've had him for 2 years, and the amount of value that's been going to be added to his name now, to know that really came since we've been here with him, that's pretty cool.
I would think, go ahead, Bob. Well, I would think like with Spoon last year, it probably meant a lot to him that you were there. I mean, did you have that conversation, kind of what it was for him to see you there?
Yeah, obviously, that year in general was a very special moment in Spoon's life. So I can't speak for him, but for me, it was very special to see that. You realize that, young men that are put in that position literally have a 24-hour window where their life literally dramatically changes, right? And to see that in its real time, to see his mom's reaction, just a lot of value to that. And now I'm getting older, right? So I've been able to witness this and now see the back end of it, right? See guys who were drafted high. And, I remember my first ever first rounder was, my first year was Joe Thomas, right? And now to come full circle that he just got inducted to first round ballot Hall of Fame, you kind of have seen what his life has done since that moment. And it's just really cool to watch.
Coach, what would you tell NFL scouts that are thinking about drafting Isaiah Williams, both as a player and the character piece also?
First off, Isaiah's intangibles for what he brings away from the game, you can't get any higher. I literally told them that today, that if you truly want to check the box in every category, then that's what he is, right? And then from a player standpoint, even though maybe the combine, I think the time was a 4.64, I know he broke the 4.6 today. I just told him, I said, if you throw him a flat route and a guy that runs 4.4 at the combine is chasing him, he'll outrun him every time. And that's just what I think he is. I think he's a true competitor. You throw the shoulder pads on and put the ball in play, and very few people are going to catch him. So it takes people to look past what they see on the watch and see what they see on the film. And if you do that, I think you'll get a special player.
Isaiah Adams doesn't seem like people are too worried about the right tackle tape. What are you hearing on him, and just maybe their beliefs still of what they saw as a guard?
I think honesty is the best policy, right? Mom and Dad taught it when you were little, but we moved him to right tackle because we needed a desperate situation that we needed to solidify that right tackle position. We thought he gave us the best option. He didn't complain, argue, disrupt, especially after some games where I know it's frustrating for him. He just continued to improve, worked with Coach Miller every day, and I think he'll truly get rewarded now because it shows the ability and the value that he brings. Like I told this group today, I said literally Isaiah Adams can probably play from left tackle to right tackle. I think he's a valuable left guard, right guard, but he's done snaps every day at practice. I'm not saying he's going to be a starting center in the league, but he might be a backup on game day when you only have one center that's going to the game. For sure, if you have two and you got him at guard, you now got three deep at center in case something drastic happens. So the value of offensive linemen that can play multiple positions is huge.
Brett, we haven't asked you about the transfer additions you've made so far. You bring 7 guys. What do you think you got in that group?
That's right. We were saving that for Monday, right? You sneak attacking. I'm going to forget some, but I know going at the end of last year, about probably by week on, I began to watch a number of players every day. The guys that said they were going in the portal, or they were in the portal. There's all kinds of different terminologies, but we specifically wanted to target certain positions, see how they unfolded. I think for us, on the offense side of the ball, been very impressed with Cole Rusk. I mean, he's just been a guy that came in and ran extremely well. His body has literally changed right in front of us to see where he's at. J.C. Davis has been very impressive. A tackle that we think will pigeonhole in at that left side, but really impressive. And Melvin Priestley has been super impressive athletically, what he can do. He's another guy, probably like Isaiah, probably a guard type, but he can literally play tackle to tackle. Super high football. He's a East St. Louis kid. Is very, very. He loves the game and what it is, right? Anybody else on offense?
Wigginton.
Kevin Wigginton. Literally, probably one of the first guys I ever saw, right? Just because we had connections to his high school. Had a rumor that he wanted to be engaged, so I had evaluated him and listed him as a top priority at the interior guard position. He can probably play left or right. He's actually done some snap at center. Super incredibly impressive family. Mom's a New Jersey Supreme Court judge. His dad's a lawyer. Just a really impressive family. Been a good fit really quick early on. So on defense, up front, all 3 guys. We got Dennis Briggs, who was the latest addition, was a Florida State guy that we did get official clearance that he's officially approved. So that was a huge NCAA win for us. Sledge has been a very impressive dude ever since he came to campus. Really like what he brings, his size, his hustle. I think some of these guys are getting introduced to what winter conditioning is all about. So I think it's for Sledge especially was like a new eye-opening experience for him. But and then Anthony is just super impressive. Great family. Dad's a self-made guy in Pittsburgh, and Dad was a hooper. Mom was a hooper, I think. And he really didn't. I think played high school football maybe his sophomore, junior year, and he's been in every. I know that our basketball team is pretty good. There's no bigger fan than Ant, right? Ant. He was asking me for tickets the other night against Purdue. I said, "Bro, I can't do that," and he was crushed. But he just loves Illinois, what it is, and those three guys I think are going to help us in immediate. Daniel Brown is a guy that I think he might have been my first junior college offer of the year. I saw him early on. I was super impressed with his twitch, his motor, his ability to bend. So we offered him. He was during a bye week. The first guy I visited, I kind of personally recruited him and just said this is what I wanted to do, and led the nation in sacks. Just everywhere I went, they're like, "Hey, you're getting that Daniel Brown kid." I said, "Yeah." So really impressed with him. Who else? Is that it on
That's
defense?
pretty much it.
Yeah, I knew I was going to forget somebody. Well, we just, like Briggs, we didn't really get in on until after the bowl game, and Randy Shannon is the co-DC there. I just kind of reached out to them, and I knew Florida State didn't really want to lose them, but they also understood the growth and development. So super impressed. Dennis, since he's gotten here, has literally physically changed his body very, very well, and super impressed with the way he's working.
Brett, is there a timeline on when you'd like to fill Charlie's assistant spot, that last one?
I'll fill it when I fill it, but
Right.
it's definitely been. I kind of was when he left. Like I literally had linebacker coaches on campus, and I get a call from the Giants, and it was kind of funny. They called me a couple days before because they were hiring another one of my former coaches that was at another NFL team, and they were asking me about him. I talked to Dave Ball, and then he called me like 4 days later. He goes, "Hey, I got a question, but I don't think you're going to like this one as much." They want to talk to Charlie, and of course, I don't want to deter anybody from things that are in front of him. Charlie did an incredible job for us, so he interviewed, and it was over in about 2 hours. So then that kind of opened up, but I was literally going out of town that next week. I just want to take a breath and kind of gather ourselves. So I think we'll have somebody, if not by the end of this weekend, early next week, but we're gone next week anyway. So whoever it ends up being, we'll get them in here early. Aaron and I and JMO will talk to him and work with them before
camp.
Yeah, before we start spring ball.
Along those lines, just we haven't talked to you about Justin and Archie.
Yeah.
What are those two? How did that come about? What do they add?
Let me see. Obviously, the linebacker position was, I obviously had a DB opening and an LB opening very quickly, right? Gibby, and have I talked about Gibby? Yeah. Okay. So Gibby was, quick, easy in, and then Arch really kind of came through the business. There's a guy that he worked with at Houston that I'm very close with. Kevin Sumlin called me. Somebody was on the phone with me. He said, "Hang up the phone and call him and offer him a job right now." So I didn't do that, but I brought him in on an interview, and he was just very impressive. Just super. Highly intelligent, great personal skills. The linebackers, have made an immediate gravitation towards him. Just kind of a different approach to, the same, hopefully, kind of results. He's had not only valuable experience as a player, but also coach. Everywhere he went, he kind of been boom, boom, boom up. And very excited about him and on the field and off the field in recruiting, right? Just a really, really dynamic guy. Step, I've actually kind of a weird story, right? So when I left Arkansas, he was the wide receiver coach that came in with the guy that replaced me, and I began to hear about this guy a lot, right? Through Barry, through my former players that I would talk to, went into the league, the 3 years after that, and I watched their receivers, some of the guys that I had recruited, right? I saw their development. Some of the guys that were on the roster, their development, and when I talked to these guys, they would all talk about Justin Stepp. And then I saw him when he left Arkansas and he went to South Carolina. I knew how much of a reaction that got out of their people, right? And then one of my really good friends was the tight ends coach of South Carolina. He's now the head coach of Murray State, but he called me immediately when he found out I was interested in Stepp. When the job opened up, I had a bunch of people reach out to me, but Barry and I both knew of Justin, and so he was a guy that literally came up on our list right away. Brought in a couple guys, but I think if you talk to our guys, I don't know if I've had a coach since I've been here that has come in and made his immediate impact with a room. Because like Pat Bryant, I was a little worried about. Gio's obviously a fantastic coach, right? So to replace a coach of that caliber, you're always very cautious about who you're bringing in, and the reaction has been unbelievable. I was with Isaiah Williams the other day, and I was just talking to him, and he said, "Coach," he goes, "the guys are really buzzing about Stepp." And I said, "Yeah." So, ironically, Stepp had recruited he recruited BB. Stepp has a twin brother, the tight end coach of Cincinnati, and that kind of throws guys for a loop because they think they met him before and they haven't. But literally, there's obviously a local kid that we're recruiting, a wide receiver that we said was priority one since the day he walked in. And I literally get a text from Stepp every day on something that we can hit him with that day, right? So he's just a relentless recruiter. It's pretty impressive.